1. The complexity of the human brain. The human brain is one of the greatest mysteries of creation. Weighing just over 3 pounds, this extraordinary organ controls absolutely everything. From the simplest actions like blinking our eyes to the most sophisticated expressions of human genius, such as composing a symphony, solving a complex equation, or feeling love for another person. Every single second, billions of electrical signals travel through neurons at lightning speed, weaving together thoughts, memories, emotions, and perceptions. It is as if within us exists a vast network of highways, always alive, always in motion. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the brain is this. It is not static. Unlike computer, which can only execute the programs written for it, the human brain is dynamic. It can reprogram itself. Scientists call this phenomenon neuroplasticity. Think about it. A person may grow up believing they are bad at languages, but if later in life that person dedicates himself to learning, the brain begins to form new pathways, new connections. Slowly, what once felt impossible becomes second nature. Neuroplasticity teaches us a profound truth. It is never too late to change. For centuries, people believed only children could learn new skills easily. Today, we know that even in old age, the brain has a remarkable ability to grow, adapt, and transform. And here lies a beautiful reflection. If the brain grants us second chances, isn't that also a reflection of God's divine mercy, His constant invitation to begin again? 2. The brain as a bridge to the divine. Philosophers, theologians, and seekers throughout history have wondered, could the brain be more than just a biological organ? Could it also be a spiritual bridge, the meeting point between the physical and the divine? The Apostle Paul, in Romans 12, verse 2, wrote, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Notice that transformation begins in the mind. The mind is where we either drift away from God or align ourselves with Him. Here's a powerful metaphor. The brain is like a radio. When the dial is out of tune, all we hear is static. But when we adjust it to the right frequency, the sound becomes clear. Our spiritual life works the same way. Anxiety, fear, and distraction create noise that drowns out God's voice. But when we train the mind through discipline, prayer, and focus, suddenly we begin to hear Him with clarity. Think about it in practice. Perhaps you've gone through a crisis, and in the middle of the chaos, an unexpected message of comfort arrived. Through a friend's words, a Bible verse, or even an inner conviction. Was it just coincidence? Or could it have been divine guidance, received because your mind was tuned to the right frequency? This idea isn't unique to Christianity. The Vedas in Hinduism, the Torah in Judaism, and the Quran in Islam all speak of renewing the mind, aligning thought, and seeking the sacred. These teachings echo what neuroscience reveals. The brain is built to adapt, and in that adaptation lies the possibility of spiritual transformation. 3. The power of words and emotions. Words are not just sounds. They carry weight, energy, and even spiritual authority. From a very beginning, words have been used both to build and to destroy. The Gospel of John begins with a profound statement. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This highlights the divine essence of words. Science also confirms this. Words charged with positive meaning can literally change the chemistry of the brain. A phrase like, "I believe in you," releases dopamine, boosting motivation and confidence. On the other hand, a harsh criticism can flood the body with cortisol, the stress hormone, which harms not only the mind but also the body. For example, picture a teacher telling a child, "You'll never be good at this." That phrase may become a scar in the child's memory, shaping their self-image for years. But if the teacher instead says, "Try again, I know you can do it," the child's brain begins to form empowering connections, building resilience and hope. Emotions work in much the same way. When we harbor anger, resentment, or bitterness, the brain remains locked in survival mode. This makes it harder to notice subtle moments of grace or guidance. But when we cultivate love, gratitude, and peace, we literally rewire the brain to become more receptive to God's presence. That's why prayer is not about words alone. It's about the heart behind the words. A prayer whispered with sincerity, passion, and faith can realign the brain, transform thought patterns, and awaken the spirit for adaptation, growth, and divine guidance. The way the brain adapts teaches us spiritual laws that reflect God's creation. The law of cause and effect. Every action, thought, and feeling leaves an imprint. Neuroscience shows this in habits. Repeated action strengthens neural pathways. Spiritually, Scripture teaches, what we sow, we reap. The law of environment. Our brains adapt to the company we keep and the places we inhabit. Spiritually, this is echoed in Proverbs 13, verse 20. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. The law of choice. Every decision reshapes both brain and soul. A person who constantly chooses to complain builds a brain wired for negativity. But if that same person practices gratitude daily, new pathways form. Gradually, joy becomes a default setting. The law of diversion. When a strategy fails, the brain seeks alternatives. Spiritually, we see the same truth. When God closes a door, He often opens a better one. Even the process of neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells, reflects the spiritual principle of rebirth. Just as the brain renews itself, so can our soul be renewed when we forgive, let go, and embrace God's grace. And what about life shocks? Painful losses, failures, and challenges may feel unbearable, but often they are catalysts for growth. Just as muscles only strengthen under resistance, our spirit often matures most during times of struggle. In hardship, we discover resilience, purpose, and faith we never knew we had. 5. Science and faith in harmony. For centuries, many believed science and faith were enemies. But when we look at the brain, we discover they are not opposites. They are complementary. Science explains how the brain functions, how it learns, adapts, and heals. Faith explains why it is designed this way, so that we may grow, connect with God, and live meaningfully. Isn't it remarkable? The same brain that engineers technology also composes worship music. The same neurons that solve equations also give birth to poetry inspired by heaven. Think of science and faith as two parts of a dance. Science gives us the steps. Faith provides the music. Together, they create a masterpiece. 6. A closing reflection. The human brain is more than biology. It is a living reflection of divine greatness. It not only governs our survival, but also opens a door to spiritual awakening. God's messages are not always thunderous or spectacular. Often, they are gentle whispers, an intuition, a word of encouragement, or a moment of silence that suddenly feels sacred. But to hear them, we must tune our inner radio. We do this by aligning mind and heart, choosing our words wisely, nurturing emotions of peace and love, and making decisions that bring us closer to His presence. In the end, the brain is an invitation to change, to learn, and to grow, both as human beings and as spiritual children of God. And maybe the most important truth of all is this: God is always speaking. The real question is, are we listening? If this message touched your heart and opened your mind, I invite you to continue this journey with us. On this channel, The Healing Vibe, we explore the connection between science, faith, and the mysteries of the human spirit. Subscribe today, activate the notifications, and share this video with someone who needs encouragement. Together, let's create a space of growth, healing, and inspiration. Because here at The Healing Vibe, we believe transformation begins in the mind, but it flows from the soul.